A strong negative bias exists against lesbian women and gay men, as well as those who identify as gender non-binary. A 2016 Center for American Progress survey found that fully 1/4 of LGBT respondents experienced discriminations based on their sexual orientation or gender identity in employment, housing, and/or public accommodations. A study of healthcare providers in both the United States and internationally found that implicit preferences for heterosexual people were pervasive and impacted both collegiality and patient care. I have a friend who identifies as genderqueer, who has not been able to find a gender-neutral restroom to use anywhere in our school building. I feel as if it would be frowned upon for me to bring my husband to work functions where spouses are invited. My colleagues are okay with me being gay as long as I never bring it up. I am an out lesbian, and I don't feel safe from verbal abuse. The same is true of racial bias. Here's a specific example. In a field experiment conducted by researchers at the National Bureau of Economic Research, identical resumes were sent out in response to employment ads in Boston and Chicago newspapers. The only difference was the names. Half had names that sounded African American. Half had names that sounded white. Of the 5,000 resumes sent out, applicants with white-sounding names received 50% more callbacks. The discrimination was uniform across occupations and industries. When asked to select counselors from a group of applicants who were equally competent but not exceptionally qualified for the position, students chose white candidates more often than African American candidates. This may indicate the willingness to give whites the benefit of the doubt. In other words, people are willing to assume that unqualified whites are more capable of doing a task than unqualified minorities. Additionally, when rating the quality of verbal skills, which were indicated by vocabulary definitions, evaluators rated the verbal skills more highly if they were told a white person provided the definition than if they were told an African American provided the definition. As a person of color, I don't feel represented, appreciated, or included. I believe that I am seen as a token. I've been told that my department doesn't talk about race. It seems like the idea is that if we talk about race, that means someone's racist. It's become a taboo topic, which means we can never make any progress. Socioeconomic bias is prevalent in medical admissions. This is because most medical schools require students acquire some type of health care experience, an emphasis that many disadvantaged, underrepresented minorities, and low-income students who are less likely to have the resources, connections, and discretionary time to shadow medical professions. Socioeconomic bias also manifests itself in the unspoken assumption that the affluent deserve to be rich and that the poor are poor because of laziness or bad decision-making. One area of diversity that is seldom discussed is the difference between faculty and staff. As staff, I often feel excluded from vital conversations and opportunities to contribute because I don't have a faculty appointment. Anti-obesity bias negatively impacts individuals, especially women, in terms of school acceptance, hiring, and promotion. Overweight individuals are often stereotyped as lazy, unkempt, and lacking in discipline. I sometimes feel that fat jokes are acceptable because we're seen as to blame for our condition. If it's our fault we're overweight, it's okay to make fun of us. Ageism is a difficult bias to identify and combat. Subtle messages of contempt abound, however. Addressing an older woman as young lady may seem like a compliment, but in reality, it's reinforcing the idea that being old is bad. And the whole idea of having a senior moment is rife with ageism. It works the other way too. One study found that discrimination for being too young is at least as common as discrimination for being too old. I've been called names related to my age, but I won't report it because leadership will know who made the report, and I feel the harassment will worsen. So what is the impact of all this? Here's what it feels like and means in reality. Women or underrepresented minorities may feel pressure to conform to the dominant culture in order to fit in. Mothers may avoid speaking about their children or feel that they have to sacrifice their children for work or work for their children. African American women may chemically straighten their hair. A gay man may avoid bringing his partner to work or be hypervigilant about his behavior so as not to appear gay. Gender non-binary individuals may feel they have no place at all. Staff may be subject to unreasonable expectations on the part of faculty members. Small mistakes on the part of members of underrepresented groups and women may be magnified, and the expectations placed on them may be higher. Women, older people, members of the LGBT community, those coming from disadvantaged backgrounds, and racial and ethnic minorities may also have to deal with assumptions about their competence, their worthiness to be part of a team, and their ambitions, all of which impacts them on an individual and an institutional level. I've heard my colleagues make disparaging comments about women, minorities, or members of the LGBT community. The response is always polite laughter or a change of subject. I've never heard anyone push back.